according to Dana White, like he said, like throughout the night, they're gonna show like a progression of Mexican history in fighting. I don't know what the fuck that means. All right, welcome to another episode of Two Fight Fans, where we talk about all things in combat sports. I'm one fight fan, Colin.
And I'm the other Stuart.
And Stu, like you were saying, we kind of got a grab bag of topics for today. So yeah, is there anything you want to start off with or anything like that? Because heads up, I did not watch anything from this past weekend at the UFC Apex or anything else going on. So what a great fight fan I am.
No, that's okay, right? Like we said, being a fight fan is about having discerning taste and just watching every Apex card flop. And here's the thing. My fascination with middleweight started off pretty much as a bit on this podcast.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, it wasn't like a real thing. But looking back on this shit, the amount of movement in the middleweight division and the amount of Apex cards headlined by middleweight contenders fights sort of forces you as a fight fan to have to pay attention to middleweight, even though in better years I would not pay attention to the middleweight division. But here we are. UFC Apex, I think 96, 97. This is the Kai Bahalio, Jared Cannonier. Apparently a night of fun fights. I watched a few and I was like, these aren't super fun.
Well, this was apparently the tough 32 Ultimate Fighter season 32 finale, tough. So that's why.
Yeah. What was the last season of Tough you remember watching? You don't need the name. You can just tell me someone who was in it. Was it the Kimbo Slice? Was it Tough 10 heavyweights?
That's the thing that came immediately to my mind. But I think I watched some afterwards. Wasn't GSP one of the coaches after that?
Ooh, possibly.
I think I watched the one where he was a coach.
Okay. Did you watch Tough 20? That was when they introduced the female strawweight division. Rose Namajunas, Carlos Esparza.
No, I did not.
Okay. Yeah, because that was the last... God, dude, Tough has been around. I'm just pulling this up. Anyway, who gives a fuck about Tough? It doesn't even seem like the UFC because they made no mention of any, like, hype until, like, this thing that Tough would happen. You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea until I, like, logged on and saw that this was, like, a Tough finale. But it was also just, like, a regular Apex card that they threw Tough on.
Yeah, because normally the Tough cards are like, all right, you've got the winners fighting, but you're giving, like, everyone else who, like, didn't really do well in their fights on the show, but you're giving them a second chance to fight someone else on it there. But I'm looking at this card and, like, Neil Magny fought on this card, like,
yeah, and he got smoked.
Yeah, like what happened?
In a classic way, Neil Magny gets smoked. It's like he's fought 30 something times in the UFC, and every time he faces someone who knows how to throw a leg kick, he goes, I penciled in to learn how to check leg kicks, but I decided not to this camp. And so I don't know what to do. Yeah, so he got hit with like 3 leg kicks and then was like hobbling. And so then he got smoked. Like beating Neil Magny is like an IQ test at welterweight. So it's really, if you know how to just like leg kick someone, you're gonna win. Yeah, it's been a long time. God, there are so many fucking. I didn't even know Eddie Alvarez and Justin Gaethje coached a one.
What, really?
Yeah, Joseph Benavidez, Henry. Anyway, the whole point is like basically by like Tough like 7 or 8, everyone knew old MMA fans like back in 2008. We knew it sucked. We knew there was no point in watching it. That's why they had to bring in Kimbo Slice in 2009 to try to spice it up. Because who cares? It's not good. Like,
dude, that season also was rough. The entire heavyweight one, like, yikes.
Yeah, because heavyweight's a shit division. Yeah. Anyway, but let's talk about this really fast. Kai Bahalio beat Jared Cannonier. He knocked him out and still got a decision, which was pretty cool. It's pretty rare that you see that stuff happen.
Wait, what? Sorry, say that again?
He knocked him out, like, stiff as a board, and then he followed up. And you kind of know how, like, sometimes you knock someone out fully, and then they get punched again, and they kind of wake up. That's what happened. So he clearly, in the 5th round, knocked out Jared Cannonier. Stiff as a board, fell back, had bounced off the canvas. Dan Miragliotta went blood for the blood god. I don't care if this man dies. And so Kai Bahalio follows up and wakes Jared Cannonier up. And Jared Cannonier is a tough motherfucker and took it to a decision. But this is another one of these like real big turnover moments in the middleweight division. We got to keep fucking talking about middleweight. But
I was gonna say, like, Jared Cannonier, like, has been in it. He's been against like some of these, contenders and these
mhm.
eventual champions, but he's also had kind of like a rough spill recently now.
Yeah, and so we've got Israel Adesanya having lost to the number one contender Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis. Robert Whitaker is going to be fighting, but like how much longer? He recently has said or brought to light that 36 is going to be kind of his the cutoff age for him. He'll probably stop fighting. He won't fight past 36, and I think
Mhm.
he's 34, going on 35 this year, or maybe we'll be 35 early next year. So we only have him for a little bit longer. Jared Cannonier's 40. He's kind of gone. Um, you've got Nasruddin Imavov and Brendan Allen fighting in the UFC Paris this coming month. But then we're getting
Yep.
into people like Marvin Vittori, who will probably never fight for a title again. Paulo Costa, who will probably never fight for a title again. Jack Hermanson, who's never fought for a title. Like we're seeing this kind of like in the best way that you can get in a division, really seeing a turnover at the top, right? Because now we've got Kai Bahalio knocking off the number 5 contender, who's kind of part of the old guard, and now he's in the top 5. Whoever wins the Imavov versus Brendan Allen will be in the top 5 as well, and like they're new, fresh matchups for kind of everyone. And so we're beginning to see this turnover of the old dynamic division, the old names, not necessarily for better fighters or fighters that are more interesting to watch. But this is how a healthy division is supposed to go. We were talking about, is there anyone that we could see Dricus du Plessis losing to? And you know what? Kai Bahalio has enough school fundamentals, but also enough kind of like insane chin donkey brains, just like Dricus du Plessis, that I'm like, hell, it might be Kai Bahalio, right? Like, and then that would feel so weird because we want like a masterful veteran like Israel Adesanya or Robert Whitaker to do it, or like a steamroller like Hamzat Chimaev. But it might be Kai Bahalio because in this fight he took some of Jared Cannonier's punches and like full power punches flush. And let's remember, Jared Cannonier had knockouts at heavyweight. Like
Oh yeah, he's fought in
yeah,
all 3 weight classes. That's right.
yeah, and he has knockouts in all 3 weight classes. Like this guy can thump. Yeah, and Kai Bahalio just much better with his lead hand. He fought southpaw the whole fight. I think he doesn't always fight southpaw, but yeah, a good jab, good range control. Was doing kind of like well schooled things on the feet. And yeah, got the knockout, but then got a decision. So like it's what a weird time at middleweight. Middleweight's going through. It kind of reminds me of the post John Jones era at light heavyweight, which I guess we're still kind of in. Though it's
Yeah.
now entered the Alex Pereira sort of the reign,
Right.
but like where we don't quite know who's the real front runner. How is this going to look? There's a lot of parity at the top. Dricus du Plessis might win 2 or 3 more fights and prove that it was him all along, but I still I have 2 eyes and a functioning brain, so watching him fight, I'm like, God, I still don't understand how he could be at the top. But
Yeah.
so yeah, that was basically what happened at middleweight. And then like perennial, we want him to be in the top 15, but he's nowhere near good enough. Edmund Shabazian got choked out by Gerald Mearshart, who's like, again, that's a test if you belong basically in the UFC middleweight division. So I think they should probably cut Edmund Shabazian.
Mm.
Angela Hill fought. She was 41. Good for her for fighting. She lost. A woman who I can't pronounce her name, but she has a win over Valentina Shevchenko in Muay Thai. Made her debut in the UFC. Just smoked this girl, but I think she was like a plus 1,000 money favorite, so she was
Whoa.
supposed to. Yeah, like it was an all right card. It was fine. The main event was entertaining enough, and it's getting movement at middleweight, which is good to see.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So that was that. You didn't watch any of the Apex, but did you watch any of the grappling that I suggested you watch?
Yes, the CJI conference that was held actually the previous week, right?
Yes, I think it was
Yeah.
2 weekends ago. Yeah.
So I only watched the one grappler you said, Kate Rutolo, who apparently also has a brother who also fought at CJI,
Yeah, the
right?
Ruotolo brothers. Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't fuck around. They're very good.
Well, and Rutolo also grapples for one championship, and he is going to be fighting for the championship belt in a couple weeks. No, next week in Denver against Mikey. I know we just said his name before we started. Musumechi.
Yep,
Musumechi.
good enough.
Yeah, and I like Mikey M's game as well. So seeing these two, I think will be a really like kind of dynamic, exciting grappling match. Although if it's in a ring, I don't really know. Like I did really like how CJI had that kind of like inverted mat ring thing that they use like in the sport karate thing.
The
But
pit.
yeah,
I
I
think.
did like that because it added
Yeah.
more dynamic grappling on the sides. But I don't know how they're going to do it in one championship.
Yeah, I think they called it the alley. Like you go out in the alley and get in a fight, but
Okay.
yeah, like not yeah. I mean, fine, whatever, fine.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, but tell me about what you thought about the fight. What you thought about kind of yeah, everything.
Well, yeah. So, I only watched the final one that he had, because I think that's the one that you recommended I watch against Andrew Tackett. Is that who
Tackett.
it is?
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was like crazy, just like fast paced, constantly moving for things, constantly reversing, getting back to the feet, and like diving in for things. It was like it's kind of like what you would like if you were to show anyone like what grappling is. Like this is what you'd want to show them. But it may also
Mhm.
give people the wrong impression that all matches are like this. Um,
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
it's kind of like if you were to have. I'm trying to think of like a striking equivalent where people just went out there and just like kind of they had technique, but they were just like throwing things left and right, and just trying to take the other person out. I don't know what the equivalent of like a boxing or
Usyk Fury is a good one, right? Like
okay. Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
technique
yeah.
and well schooled, but it had drama. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd say that too then. Yeah. So
yeah.
I'd say it's not
It's
that. It was very entertaining. And there was a lot of parts where like I'm not as experienced in the grappling world, so like I'd have to rewind and like try to see like what they actually did because there's such high level jujitsu and grappling that like it was really hard to follow.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was
It's
impressive, but it was still like I don't know what they did.
yeah. Um, Yeah, I think well, and I think like you said, like it does give a false sense that like a lot of grappling matches like that. Like, did you try to watch any of the Olympic judo?
I did, but that's the other thing. I'm not well schooled in the rules for long, so like by watching, I learned more about like why someone won in like 10 seconds, whereas this person had to go into overtime or whatever.
Yeah, it's also an unwatchable sport, like 95% of the time. It's just battling for grips and like little technicalities. You think it's gonna be like, oh, and then this guy fucking flips this dude ass over tea kettle, and this guy slams this guy. There's so few like actual throws in high level judo that
Well, that's what you
it's
see in all the highlights. That's why.
yeah,
Like you think it's just
it's
gonna be that way.
unwatchable, and that's usually what a lot of submission grappling is. I think that having that pitted right where there's I mentioned this last week. Having that sort of concave shape to the mat actually entices like more aggressive grappling because you can't just like butt scoot around and you guys
Yeah.
like you kind of gravity naturally is like putting pressure in certain areas and so it makes having kind of positional advantage much more advantageous than if you're on like a flat surface. But yeah, we'll
Well,
we'll have to watch that Ruotolo Musumeci match. That'll be good. That'll be phenomenal.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's that's good high level grappling right there.
I'm pretty sure it's the co-main event as well of that whole
What?
card. Of that one championship card.
Well, I know, but what's the main event?
John Haggerty is defending his Muay
Oh,
Thai
nice. Oh,
championship.
great.
So
Muay Thai and grappling. So no MMA at this one card. Perfect. That's what I like to see. That's good stuff. No, it's true because like their MMA is not as good, and so do what's better, right? Like let's get a couple of those. Like, have you ever seen that? I can't remember what they call it, like night MMA, where they're in full armor and like sticks and they
yeah.
beat each other. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
get that in there. That's what I want to see. Some like a scream of fighting. Yeah, or like those like taser knives. I want to get wild. Yeah, that'd be cool. Anyway, all right. So those are the things that could have been watched. But we should look forward to September, because September is a pretty decent month, at least on paper.
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, I want to run through this, and I want to try to rank the top 5 things we're most hyped for in September. Because
Okay, okay.
August was a little light. September's looking better. So September 3rd, I think it's the Tuesday, the Wednesday, right after Labor Day weekend, if you're in North America. Your boy Inoue is back, defending his
Yeah,
title. I don't know why he's defending his title. I think he's like a 10,000 to 1 favorite in this fucking fight.
yeah.
But it's silly. He could have gone up and tried to unify, like we had said. But here he is, defending his title against TJ Doheny, TJD. I know nothing about TJD. I looked at his record. I was like, looked at a couple of highlights and went, this guy's not beating Inoue. Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, how hype are you to see your guy, I guess, like, we were calling for Dan Hooker to be the Lions to a bunch of, like, low-level MMA fighters being thrown into the gladiator ring. That's kind of what this feels like. Are you excited to watch Inoue feast, or are you kind of like, no, I want to see him go for history?
So again, what did we say? Was June was a hot boy summer for boxing?
Yes, it was.
September is beat all the scrubs in for boxing, it seems like.
Yes. Yeah,
I don't,
you're
with the
right.
exception of later on in the month, but like we talked about like how Inoue is one of these potential rising superstars and an ability to do has the potential to do something that like no other lighter fighters have done in a while, like since Pacquiao, essentially. He would
Mhm.
be like this generation's, Pacquiao, and he has like thunderous like punching power and everything. So like I don't know who's telling him to take these fights or if this is really what he feels like he needs to do. Because yeah, now we are kind of getting into that. Like I know we talked about this in his last fight. Like, is he like cherry picking fights now? Because like I don't know if this is him or if his manager or what is going on. Because if he were to actually go up to featherweight to 125, like there are new challenges there that would be exciting. That would be, like a calling card to the rest of the boxing world of what these lighter weights can do. I don't know if he just has like a certain amount of fights on a contract that he has to fulfill.
Well,
And
I think this is a mandatory for his unified title that he just won.
yeah, so and then this is also where it gets kind of weird is like, okay, you have a mandatory defense, but if you move up, you have to vacate. And like, does that like, it almost like makes it like just acquiring the belts is the achievement, and then who cares what you do with it afterwards? Like you can defend it, or you can go after like bigger fish or like greater acclaim and get new belts. You know what I mean?
Well, we're gonna talk about Canelo later, talking
Well,
about
yeah.
defending belts, but
Well, that's what I'm saying is like these guys, like Inoue doesn't have the same pull or the same status as Canelo because well, he has like half the amount of fights, but also
Mhm.
like Inoue being a smaller fighter and in his 30s.
Yeah, he needs to move up now, right?
It's yeah, I mean, I know Pacquiao was able to do it, but, like, I don't know if Inoue will have the longevity that someone like Pacquiao has, and I don't know. I don't know. It is one of those things like it's not tarnishing his reputation to me, it's not anything like that, but if he keeps doing this, it'll keep leaving that thought in my mind, like, what else could he have done?
Yeah,
Like, could he have done more? Could he have been even greater than he is? And we'll just be left wondering. So
yeah,
I hope that's not the case, but
yeah. I mean,
either way, I'm stoked to see him put the beating on someone else. I feel bad for this other guy, but like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. Okay. Well, so okay, you didn't tell me 1 to 10. How pumped are you for this?
I am pumped to see Inoue like showcase his skill, but I'm not. That's about it.
Yeah,
Like I could watch any of his highlight videos and get the same sort of excitement. But
Colin.
it doesn't really add much to the status to me because I don't know anything about him either.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you hate number systems because I've asked you twice and you're not giving me a number. But all
Oh,
right, I'll take
okay.
that.
Well, how many fights are we ranking here? Because I see you have 6 listed, but You also don't have one championships listed, so
I don't have one championships listed.
I
That's right. I
know.
didn't even know. So I don't know. No, it's not even ranked amongst these. Just like overall, like I'm pretty. This is like a 6, right? It's better than average. It's better than
Okay.
5, right? A little bit more, but like, yeah. This is an in a way fight where I feel like I can catch the replay afterwards. Like, there's no
Yeah,
need to
yeah, yeah.
watch
I
it.
don't need to stay up late or get up super early to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So, but if you're into that and you ever since we recommended you watch in a way, you're like, oh my god, that's all I want to watch. He's fighting again, and good for him, right? He fought like you said
Yeah.
in June, 2 fights in 3 months. That's pretty good. That's better than a lot of guys. So cool. Uh, then the following week we got another fucking Apex card. Just another one of these things.
Yeah.
97. Woo. That's a lot. Gilbert Burns against Sean Brady. There is basically nothing else on this card. There's like an
Yeah.
interesting featherweight fight, but that's it. This is just another one of these. Like we talked about at middleweight, there's a really old guard at middleweight, and there's a really old guard at welterweight, right? The Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal, Gilbert Burns, Colby Covington, and Bilal Muhammad is kind of in that as well.
Mhm.
And then we've got these new guys: Jack Della Maddalena, Ian Gary, Shavkat Rakhmonov, and Sean Brady coming up. And so this is a nice like old guard versus new guard to see if Sean Brady can kind of like begin to turn over this division in an interesting way.
Mhm.
And man, the thing with welterweight is they unlike middleweight where they're ready to feed the old timers to the youngins. They don't want to do that at welterweight, it seems, because they gave Colby Covington a shot against Leon Edwards for no fucking reason. They like begrudgingly gave Bilal Muhammad a shot, which he had earned. But now it sounds like Bilal Muhammad might be defending his title against Kamaru Usman again, even though Kamaru Usman's coming off 2 losses to Leon Edwards and a loss to Hamzat Chimaev. And there's Shavkat Rakhmonov, Jack Della Maddalena, Ian Gary, and possibly Sean Brady, like ready to go. So
So
I
I
don't know
actually
what the
want to
fuck
ask
they're
you.
doing.
At
Yeah.
some point, I want to ask you, like, and I think we can have a whole discussion about this later on, so we might need to table it. But like the whole matchmaking process and system in the UFC, like, and I know
Stupid.
combat sport a lot. Yeah, yeah, stupid, but it's like I I need to, I want to go dive into this a little bit more and like do some research to figure out how they actually put together some of these fights and how they have backups or whatnot, because at sometimes it makes it like very obvious, like, yes, here's the champion, here's the number one contender, or here's someone who's in the top 5 but they recently lost and someone's coming up and they've been on a winning streak. So is this like out with the old in with the new? You're like, those make sense. But then there are just some that are just like, no one really wants to see this, but it's still the one that they're giving us, like.
Yeah. Well, like for the way I understand it, which again I'm not privy. I'm not sitting there with Dana White. He's not giving me bags of cash like the Nelk boys. But from what I understand of it and what has been reported, is it essentially is basically about 4 months out. The matchmakers get handed I mean, this is obviously going to be a bastardized way of it actually works. They don't hand someone a physical spreadsheet. You imagine there's like a Google Doc somewhere. But they have a spreadsheet of all of the dates and events, like pay-per-views. This will be at Apex. These are the locations that they're at. Here are the 4, like the fights across 4 months, right? They have what, 40 something, high 40s events per year. And they're like, hell or high water, we're making these cards, right? We're going to fill it out. These are the locations. If it's a pay-per-view, it has to have a title fight on it. You have to make sure, like, okay, well, who's ready? Who can be prepared? Like, who has fought the most amount of time away? Like, who's injured? And they essentially just get calls. Probably they start with the champions for the title fights and go like, look, this is where it is. And there are like a couple of, if it's in Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia, they want a lot of Muslim fighters. You've got a lot of the guys out of Russia who are Muslim fighters. If they're going to go to Mexico, they're going to want like Alexa Grasso as their Mexican champion, yada, yada, yada. But they essentially go and they go, okay, number one contender, are you ready? Will you be ready in 3 months? And he goes, no, I'd like a little bit more time. And they go, fuck that noise. Number 2, are you ready? Right. That's probably what happened with this Khalil Roundtree thing. Is they went, well, we can't give it to Yuri Prochazka. We need Ankalaev because he's a Muslim fighter to be on the Abu Dhabi card. On the line calling people until they got to Khalil Roundtree, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it. Great, I'll fight at elevation on like this is basically a short notice fight for him. It's like, what, 2 months away? This isn't like a
Yeah.
full 14-week camp. And he went, yeah, sure. And they went, great, moving on. And so I think that's how a lot of this happens. When you start getting these weird ones, like this John Jones Stipe one, or like why Colby Covington got this Leon Edwards fight, it does seem like they just get a bug up their ass about thinking that it'll sell really well. And maybe they do have
Mhm.
internal metrics that say it'll sell really well, but that's what it seems like. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't just put Shavkat Rakhmonov in against Bilal Muhammad, because it seems like they don't want Bilal Muhammad to be champion. And so it's like, why not just elevate your like next star in Shavkat Rakhmonov? But it seems like they're like, no, we might get a better pull on pay-per-view if it's Kamaru Usman because people remember him, and then we can put the highlight of him knocking out Jorge Masvidal. And then if he wins, we'll have him lose to Shavkat Rakhmonov, and that pay-per-view will sell better. Right? They get these like weird ideas about that where it's like, if you just put on the best fights, people will probably watch it if you actually market it and promote it, which is their fucking job correctly, right? Like, because I'm really sick and tired at welterweight. Like, we did not need that Colby Covington fight. That should have been Bilal's fight, and then Bilal should have fought like twice this year.
Mhm.
Why are we doing this? It's a weird one. Anyway, but Burns Brady, that should be a good fight. Yeah, and again, this will be like another passing of the guard, and then hopefully, like very quickly by the end of this year or early next year, the Colbys, the Kamarus, the Bilals, the Leons will kind of be like gone from the division. Like we can just move on. Yeah, because like I don't know. I liked Kamaru as a champion. I thought he was a very good fighter. He like put on
Yeah.
entertaining fights. But like Colby is entirely washed and like terrible, and like Leon really has bad donkey brains. Bilal, you got to remember the name. But there's new blood in this division that could be a lot more exciting. How excited are you for Burns and Brady?
Eh.
Yeah, that's kind
I
of how I
mean,
feel.
but that's the thing. Like the night before, we have one championship, and I'm more excited for that. And I just hope I
Mm.
remember to fucking watch it on. Is it on Amazon Prime? I don't know. I don't even know if it's on Amazon Prime or if it's gonna be a fucking like random pay per view they decide to do.
Is it on Tubi or Voodoo or it's somewhere? I think
Well,
if you
normally they're on Amazon Prime, so
Okay. Maybe you have to get a VPN, pretend you're in Malaysia, and then like watch it on like local news. I don't know. It's a very challenging. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Burns Brady is whatever. It's an Apex card again. Like it does have a consequential fight at the top. It does have Jessica Andrade coming back, but again, they fill this with people that are contractually obligated to get a fight. So who cares? Then we get to kind of the biggest day in combat sports, September 14th. Or at least in September 14th, Mexican Independence Day. We have two cards going head to head. We have Canelo Alvarez, who always fights on Mexican Independence Day, fighting number one contender Benavidez. Oh no, wait. It's just some guy named Berlanga. Bummer Town. No, Belanga's a good fighter. He's just gonna get steamrolled by Canelo. This is Canelo getting 30 million contractually. Who
Jesus.
cares? It's a stinker, right? And like again, I'm not that mad at Canelo. Really, it's the sanctioning bodies who should force him to give up the titles and force him to take these fights. Right? And if he doesn't want to, he goes, I don't want to take them, then you just strip him and you move on. And he can take his fun fights. But yeah, I mean, if I was Canelo and I knew it's like if I had any job where I knew I was going to get a $30 million payday and I got to pick how hard that job would be, I'd be like, yeah, I would like to be a professional napper and just like sleep and then get 30. Like, I wouldn't be like, bro, I want to be like a lumberjack. That's crazy. You pick the easiest thing. That's what Canelo's doing. How excited are you for that? Not at all. Me neither.
Yeah. Well, okay, let me ask you. Same question with Inoue. Does this at all tarnish or reduce your sight or feelings about Canelo and his status in the boxing world since he is kind of I don't want to say playing it safe, but yeah, he's just basically doing whatever he wants. He's gonna get paid and like he's sending him his family and the rest of the Canelos for like ever. So like, like how do you feel about it?
I'm not as like a lot of people are saying like they're really disappointed in him and like it makes them look less favorably on his right. He's a Hall of Fame fighter. He's one of the greatest fighters pound for
Yeah.
pound that I've ever been able to watch. He's one of the biggest draws in boxing. Like if he retires before this fight, he goes in the Hall of it would be more entertaining as a fight fan if he fought Benavidez or like fought some of these number one contenders. But I don't I'm not like, oh, he owes it to boxing or he owes it to the sport. It's like, this is prize fighting. The goal is to fight and get a prize. He's in a position where he gets to fight people a lot worse than him and get the same size prize. He won. He beat the system. I just am not going to pay money or really think about it anymore. So like, I don't. And I guess the thing with Canelo is that, like, it seems at this point that he has no interest in doing a lot of those things unless, what did he say? He would fight for like 150 million against Benavidez or Terrence Crawford if Saudi Arabia was willing to pay him that much, or something like absurd,
Jeez.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like he's basically told you in, like, without writing it out explicitly, hey, guess what? I'm only taking easy, fun fights for myself. I'm not going to take like the challenging ones that would build legacy even more. And so
Yeah.
I kind of go, oh, okay, well, like, great, you go do that. I won't watch it, and that'll be that. In a way, his fight, I think it's just mostly like he has this contractual obligation. He knows in the same way he'll know he'll get a paycheck, and then he might move up or like have more negotiating power to then move up and take on bigger challenges that I'm interested in seeing. So I'm a little bit like, I guess, like more disappointed in the TJ versus Inoue fight, just because I know Inoue is still probably seeking to make those big fights and like achieve bigger things, whereas Canelo has basically said like, I'm in the twilight of my career, I'm here to collect $30 million to fight admirable, good fighters, but not Canelo level fighters.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's just like I'm not gonna watch it. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Like I'm not upset. It's just like, it'd be like if Disney came out and said like, we're only going to make Star Wars Acolyte television shows and nothing else. It's just gonna be Star Wars Acolyte season 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've never watched any of these, and I won't start. I'll just be like, okay, cool. You can do that, but I'm not gonna be like a part of it. I wouldn't be like
Yeah.
upset. I'd be like, all right, well, all right, I'll watch something else. Yeah. What about you? Are you hand wringy? Are you like, oh, it's for the sanctity of the sport. He must defend it.
No, I mean, I think this is one of the problems with like, okay, I don't want to say a problem. This is just how boxing and fighting sports are. There's no season, so there's no like, hey, you're gonna like you start over, you work your way up, and here's the championship fight. Like, it's they no fighter has to like go through those kind of like calendar seasons of like, okay, it's a new season, let's try again. Where you've got like where you can have those continued debates of like, okay, you've got like in basketball, like old man LeBron going against, aging Steph Curry again, and they have like shit teams behind them now. Like, are they going to be able to do anything, And it's like, I, once you've already made it to the top in combat sports, everyone is reaching for you. But because it's all like money and contract based and organization based, it's just out of your control. And then it's also like, well, it doesn't make sense for me to I've already paid my dues. I don't need to be taking punishment like I used to in my younger career when I was trying to make my way up here. I'm going to take the fights where it's going to give me the most money for the least amount of risk, because I already paid my dues. So I think there's very few fighters who get to actually say that and do that. But I also feel like it could blow back in the opposite way when you have a really popular fighter like Pacquiao and he takes, dangerous fights and at times in his later career where he really didn't need to, and then took a lot of punishment when he didn't need to,
Hmm.
like the man had already cemented his legacy. He was already like a senator or whatever. Like, what was he doing, like going in some of these fights and then getting like knocked out? Like, he didn't
Ah,
need to do that.
gambling debt, my man. Gambling debt
Okay,
is a horrible
sure.
thing. Yeah. I mean, I will push back slightly. Like you mentioned this thing about like seasons and that there's no mechanism to kind of stop it. There is a mechanism, and it's called the sanctioning bodies. The sanctioning bodies routinely are going, yeah, we know we have this person, Benavidez, who has been for 2 years the mandatory. And they keep going, well, we'll make an exception, right? Because you have to petition the sanctioning bodies. Go, I'm not going to fight your number one challenger, but I do want to defend my title, right? Because the title does confer some pay per view status, right? It does help sell pay per views. It does add a little bit more weight to a fight, right? Because if Canelo lost all of his belts and it was just Canelo versus Belonga, it would still sell gangbusters, but it might sell a little less because you don't get a slap on the poster and you don't get to talk up this thing about like he's defending and like if this person does it, they will become the unified champion.
Mhm.
The sanctioning bodies routinely are sleeping on the job. They're going, yeah, okay, Canelo can do it. Yeah, okay, Canelo can do it. Yeah, he can have this exemption. Yeah, he fought Jaime Munguia, who was not a number one in any of the for any of the titles. He was not a number one contender. Berlanga, not a number one for any of the titles. So the sanctioning bodies just keep going, well, it's okay, it's Canelo. Well, it's okay, it's Canelo. It's like what you do is you go, we're going to strip you. We're going to strip you, and you're not going to get a chance to fight unless you fight Benavidez, right? Or unless you fight one of these other people, or unless you
Right.
move up and then you're fighting maybe Bivol or Beterbiev, which I know he has said he wants to do, but I don't know if he will. And I think even though Canelo has more money than God and probably could go fuck you, I don't need that. I think he does still like the idea of being called the undisputed champion, and so the more you just let him get away with it, the less, right? Like, if you go, no, guess what? We're going to take that away from your poster. You're not going to have gold when you walk out. You're just going to be a guy in shorts. Oh, well, fuck. Okay, I'll fight Benavidez, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but they're not doing it. The sanctioning bodies are doing fuck all to stop this. And so it's their fault. It's not Canelo's. Canelo went, can I get away with making a shitload of money for a really easy job? And the one person is supposed to say, no, you can't do that. Life is supposed to have checks and balances. Goes, nah, fuck checks and balances. We'll let you do it. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, that fight's gonna happen. It probably will have more Mexican and Mexican American fans in attendance because it's Canelo.
Yeah.
Than this UFC Noche Riyadh season 306, whose main card or like main fight or main attraction is the Sphere. And then yeah, there are some fights on the card, right? But it's all this other shit. But that's also happening the same night. How
So
excited are you for the fights on this card outside of everything else?
wait, say that again. How do you mean by that? Like
Okay,
outside of everything else?
so let's say a sinkhole opens up underneath the Sphere. Everything gets swallowed. Saudi Arabia pulls its thing. Mexican Independence Day magically gets moved to September 15th. And this fight card has to take place in the Apex on September 14th with none of the accoutrement. How excited are you for these fights by themselves?
I do want to see. I do like Sean O'Malley, so I do want to see. I'm fine with that. I do want to see Brian Ortega and Diego Lopez because
Yeah.
we talked about that a lot. I kind of still want to see this Raul Rosas Jr. Like, is he up to the hype and everything that they're trying to build him around? I don't know, and Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko. I know we've kind of talked about this before, but like it won't put like an end to their trilogy, whatever rivalry here. But it's still a fight that I'd like to see. Everything else, I don't know anyone else on this card. So yeah, I mean, even if it was a regular fight card, if it was happening the following weekend, it was happening this weekend, I think I would still be moderately interested in it. I'd still be interested in it. I'm still interested
Okay.
in it.
Got it. Now, on the flip side, let's say this fight card, like you said, has to take place this past weekend for the Jared Cannonier, Kai Bahalio, Angela Hill, Tabitha Ricci, blah, blah, blah card.
Okay.
But that card gets transplanted to the Sphere. And now the Sphere and Riyadh season and it's going to be a once in a lifetime like presentation package, but it's just going to be for like a middleweight contender fight and then a couple of other like divisional relevant fights. Would you be more excited for the fact that it's in the Sphere? Or would you go, oh no, really, the loss of the fights is going to damage it? What I'm trying to do is like, I want to separate we for the Sphere and all this other shit, and how excited are we for the actual fights? And is it 50-50? Is it kind of like these fights are good, but without the Sphere, they're just good? And then the Sphere would be interesting regardless of the fights. You know what I mean?
So we've kind of touched on this, and like the Sphere is very interesting to me in that it's like a new way to perform. Like they've changed. Like, okay, you know how a lot of like EDM shows, they have like a big visual component now where they do like crazy weird like laser lights and like weird like video things in the background.
Colin, I saw that Willie Nelson was coming to Canada, and that was the most exciting music act I think I could think of. So no, I don't know what they're doing in EDM shows.
Okay.
No.
Well, okay, like U2 like performed there when the Sphere opened, and apparently like all the visuals they added to it in like the background are like it's really impressive, So it's not just
Okay.
like the technical aspect of it, but just like the actual visual of it. It's
Mhm.
probably like the first time when you've ever seen an IMAX and it's like, wow, this is like an incredible like viewing experience. And I think the first couple concerts you go to this, like at the Sphere, is kind of like that.
Mhm.
Now, how does that translate to fighting? I don't think it does.
Yeah.
And, I think it's going to be kind of underwhelming and also potentially distracting for like
Mhm.
not just the viewers, but also like the fighters. Like this screen is huge and fucking bright. And according to Dana White, like he said, like we're gonna throughout the night, they're gonna show like a progression of Mexican history in fighting. I don't know what the fuck that means because like, are we talking about boxers? Are we talking about like
Aztec warriors,
are we talking about
slaying
like
conquistadors.
yeah, are we talking about like, professional wrestling and
Mhm.
luchadora and like things like that? Like, what are we talking about when Dana White says we are celebrating Mexican heritage in their fighting blood? Like, I don't know what the fuck you mean by that, Dana. Like, and how are
No.
you going to display that on this giant ass screen? Is it just going to be like a timeline of like, you know, images or videos? And again, if it is, you're just distracting me from the actual fights that are happening.
Mhm. Yeah. I like 2 questions I have about that, like, to kinda, like, noodle it through is, 1, we know the fighters pull out often, and this has been something that's been happening this year, quite a lot, and they need to bring Alex Pereira in to save it.
Yep.
The visual package, right? All the videos and the graphics that they need to have prepared when they have to, like, swap a fighter in is not like a small lift. I imagine it is exponentially harder if you have a huge graphics package meant to be displayed at the Sphere. To me, either it feels like the graphics package will have nothing really to do with the fights in case, let's say, all of these fights fall through, right? We saw
Oh,
Merab
yeah.
Dvalishvili had a cut over his eye, and so then it has to be Sean O'Malley versus someone else, or they pulled the Sean O'Malley fight, and then let's say Valentina Shevchenko can't like if it's kind of like what was the card where they had to rearrange fucking everything? Oh, the Connor card. Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
like if that happened and they had all of these graphics packages, like would they have enough time to remake all of it? So it seems like either to me, A, they have a graphics package entirely divorced from the actual fights on the night. It'll be like more of a,
Yeah,
I
which
guess,
sounds like that's what it is. Like, it's
yeah.
supposed
So
to be a
like,
celebration of Mexican heritage or whatever.
yeah, which is weird because it feels like then it's not. It has nothing. Almost like the fights are like a side tent at the carnival for this like big movie that we're watching,
Yeah,
or they have told all of the fighters explicitly, you cannot pull out from this card. If you pull out, you're dead to us, and we're cutting you.
yeah.
Um, that would be, yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm excited for this card, but I'm not that excited. Also, because I'm not going to the Sphere, because I'm not going to pay thousands of dollars to do that. And so like I don't think it probably will translate on TV either, right? Because
Yeah.
they'll probably run the package, which would be cool if it was in a giant screen. But if I'm watching it on a regular screen, I'd be like, yeah, that's a video package. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, oh, all right. Um, yeah. So, all right. Of these 5 events that we've mentioned, the UFC Noche, Canelo Berlanga, Burns Brady, Inoue TJ, Doheny, and then the one championship one. Which event are you most excited for in the first half of September?
Oh, man.
it's
Yeah, I don't
a
know.
big sigh from Colin.
Yeah, I would
It's got to be
I
Noche, right?
it's gotta be Noche, yeah,
It's
there's
got
just
to be.
more fights that I'm
Yeah.
interested in, because all the other ones I'm like, I'm interested in seeing Inoue. I like Canelo. Also,
Hmm.
actually, since both Canelo and UFC Noche are both on the same time, the last time that Canelo had to fight on the same night the UFC fight happened, he waited until the UFC fight ended
Hmm.
or the event
Hmm.
ended. So he didn't actually fight until like 10:30 at night. There's
Hmm.
like videos and pictures of him like sleeping in his
Hmm.
robe with his gloves on. Like, what the fuck? Like, that is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean that was the first BMF fight, and that was the Jorge Masvidal Nate Diaz. Back when they
Oh
were
yeah.
kind of were at the height of their popularity, which brought in a lot more casual audience viewers.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think there will be much crossover between the people willing to put money in to watch Canelo fight and the people willing to watch this Noche event.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's I mean again, like kind of Canelo being like I don't give a shit because I think it's also in Vegas too.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
It's at
yeah,
MGM. like
Yeah,
literally around the block.
yeah, and I think Canel's in like his fuck it era. He's just like whatever. I'm gonna do whatever I want to do. Yeah, I do feel kind of bad for the people at the Sphere also because like I have not seen. It's coming up soon. I haven't seen any like advertisements or any sort of like promotion really highlighting it's Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. Like this huge style contrast, and there's like a storied rivalry in the women's flyweight division. All they keep talking about is how like bodacious the Sphere is going to be. And I'm like, you're not really promoting the fights. You're just promoting that you're going to a venue, which is weird. That's not really good fight promotion. But
That's a
that's
really good point. Like for a lot of these other cards, there's been like promotion after promotion, like advertisements on ESPN and all this stuff, but
mm-hmm.
I haven't really seen anything aside from like during UFC events. And on September 14th, UFC goes to the Sphere for the first
Yeah.
time, and like
It's
that's it.
You would think the title fight is the Sphere, right?
Yeah,
Like, and all of the
yeah,
PR they're doing, going on podcasts or like all the little like mini podcasts that they have about this stuff. It's just Dana or it's just a UFC employee or like Michael Bisping talking about, ooh, I've seen the graphics package of the Sphere. It's gonna blow your mind. It has nothing to do with, hey, Sean O'Malley and Merab Dvalishvili is a super intriguing fight. Hey, we have Brian Ortega, Diego Lopez, that fight that everyone was like, oh my god, this is fire. It's like it's almost an afterthought. So I'd be a little pissed if I was a fighter because you're probably not going to get the rub because again, I really suspect that they won't have any graphics packages for the fights because they want to be able to like if they have to call in Alex Pereira or make a switch up, they don't want to have to do any extra work. They'll just have their like advertisement packages and their like weird shit that they're going to do during the fights go off without any sort of like but dude maybe September 15th will be like oh my god they pulled it off, it was amazing, it was the coolest thing since
yeah,
sliced
yeah.
bread. Like Stewart doesn't even care about Willie Nelson anymore. Like this is that'll be, but leading up to it I'm like I don't, yeah, whatever.
Well,
All
here,
right.
let just in this year, we both we looked at certain things like 300, for example. We were like, okay, on paper it looks good, but we don't know. Things always fucking change, and then it was a pretty big banger. So who knows? Can lightning strike twice in 1 year for the UFC?
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, here are like my two things that I really dislike, which the UFC PR machine is very very good at. One is kind of like when someone says I couldn't be happier with how UFC 300 turned out, saying like I couldn't be happier with it, or like I've never been happier watching a fight card, but it doesn't mean you couldn't be like you if the only thing you've ever eaten is saltine crackers and then someone hands you a bologna sandwich, you're gonna be like, oh my god, this is the best fucking thing I've ever eaten, right? Because it's not a saltine cracker. Like they can still do so much more, right?
Mhm.
UFC 300, he promised it to be the most amazing fucking thing. If you took that BMF title fight out of that card, it would have been a good card, but it would not have been this like amazing thing, right? They had the chance to have Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira fight at 205 pounds. They had Conor McGregor. They could have done John Jones, Tom Aspinall. They could have like there are so many things they could have done with that card that would have been amazing, and they just like didn't. It ended up being a really good card, but that doesn't mean that it was like oh they couldn't have done anything else. Like just what a poverty of imagination not to think like oh there were so many other fights that we all talked about going like well maybe that'll be on 300 that just never materialized and they never put on there.
Mm.
So that really that annoys me. And then yeah, this thing about they go well like it look the event went out like we might all like the Sphere card, but the way Dana is talking about it, it's like if I don't have 30 spontaneous orgasms while I'm watching this fucking card, it's failed, right? He's talking about it like it's going to become the second coming of Christ. And then he's like, well, yeah, see, look at all these haters. They just doubted me. And I'd be like, I'll say it was a cool package, man, but you've so overhyped your own product and then deliver like the most minimal viable product a lot of the times that's what happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so right, it could be a good card. It could be entertaining fights. The graphics packages could be cool, and like maybe the live event would be really awesome. I'm not going, so I'll never experience it. But yeah, it's like yeah, that doesn't mean that it's the best thing ever, right? Um, yeah, it's right. There's like 3 good fights on this card too, right? This isn't like Autumn card either.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. All right. September's a good month for fights, though. We're all excited. Feel my happiness? I'm excited. All right. Last two cards. Anthony Joshua and Dubois are fighting for Usyk's vacated IBF title. Any excitement about that?
I mean,
Eh?
it's like we talked about during that first fight. Like the IBF is just proving they are the least fun of the organizations. They should have just like, come on, like, or give him like an interim title or whatever. Let him let Usyk and Fury fight for them again in a highly contested rematch at the end of the year. Like,
Yeah. I mean, what I will say is like everyone knows, right? Anthony Joshua and Dubois are fighting for Usyk's table scraps. He beat Joshua twice. He flatlined Dubois. Whoever wins this, who are they going to call out Usyk again to get smoked once more? And it'll be an entertaining heavyweight division once, like, let's say, I would assume if Usyk wins against Fury again, he will retire, and if he beats or if he loses to Fury, they'll have the trilogy. So yeah, it's entertaining, and it's a good heavyweight boxing fight. I'll watch it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, and here's the weird thing: IBF strips Usyk. They see Canelo though, and they're like, "Nah, man, you wear that belt as long as you want." And I'm like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Yeah, weird. All right, last one. September 28th. It's UFC goes back to Paris. We have Renato Moicano versus Benoit Saint Denis, and then I think the co-main event is Brendan Allen and Nasruddin Imavov. Another middleweight ass fight. What do you think about those two fights in Paris?
Oh boy, I I don't know. It's one of those. It's another like.
You're just not feeling September, my man.
Not really. Like I'm feeling the first half of September, and then but like this is kind of like another one of those things where like we feel like the UFC has like they don't spread out some of their like top fighters or their top events. They just like front load a lot of them into certain events. Like, okay, fine, Sphere, whatever. Like big once in a lifetime spectacle, UFC 300. But it's like after each of those, it's like we plan for this one big event, and then for a month or two afterwards, we've just got nothing, or we've got like I don't know, just again, like people who trying to make names for themselves, but it's are you going to buy the pay-per-view or not, and it's just not as entertaining. Renato Moicano and Benoit Saint Denis, like Renato Moicano forevermore will just his fucking rambling after his last fight, like I can't get it out of my head. And Benoit Saint Denis, like his last fight, or not his last fight, but when he fought, who did he fight against? I brought this up last time too. When he fought,
he last fought Dustin Poirier.
No, yeah, it wasn't. Oh God, I can't. I'm looking back here. No, I guess maybe it wasn't him. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not like super invested or interested in this one, I guess.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, right? Because like I also lurking in the back of my mind, looking at the rest of the UFC events this year, is like we haven't had many heavyweights of consequence fighting, and one of them is a Parisian named Cyril Gane, and he is not on this card, and I don't know where the fuck that guy's been.
Well, he was supposed to. He was rumored that he was going to be, but then he got put on. Which one?
He's not on. Oh yeah, card. That's right.
Yeah, he's on the Abu Dhabi with Topuria and Max Holloway. He's fighting Alexander Volkov.
Yeah, in a terrible rematch that we do not need to see again. It was a terrible first fight. The September 28 card's got some fights on it that I'm interested in. It doesn't have like I almost feel like if you threw a title fight on the top of this one, it would be better than the Sphere one on paper with depth. But it's all right. I mean, Moicano headlining card is crazy. I was hoping he was going to fight Patty. Which did you see that they are talking about Beneil Dariush versus Patty Pimblett?
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, good.
Hey, wait, did I call that? I did say, yeah.
Did you?
I think so. I think I
nice.
Said,
that's good. Yeah, perfect.
And
yes,
you said, wow, you hate Patty more than I do.
Yeah, because nobody, Mateusz Gamrot could not take Beneil Dariush down. Arman Tsarukyan cannot take Beneil Dariush down. That's great. That's exactly what you want. And then Beneil Dariush will just punch a hole right in Patty's head. Very exciting. I hope that fight goes through. That's very
All
good.
right.
It's very good matchmaking. So
That's
yeah, September is yeah, I guess like the era of squash matches and like there's a lot of stuff, but it is man, is September just like the dying of the light for like hot boy summer?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think
What
so.
a bummer. What a
But
bummer.
but dude, I'm looking at this UFC 308. This might be the
Oh,
best.
it's the best card on paper.
Yeah,
Bar
yeah.
none. Yeah.
This one is. Oh man.
Yeah. Well,
Once we get closer, it's oh yeah.
and 307 is really good too. Like 307 slaps. So I got no issue with that. We just have to
Yeah, that's
wait
true.
until October. They decided to slow roll it. Yeah, like
So October is
October's good. It's fall. It's
what
spooky season. It's fucking
spooky
it's good. It's good. It's
pumpkin spice season, baby.
yeah, dude. Yeah. So it'll be good, but we just have to suffer through September, it sounds like. And this sphere card. I don't know. I don't know why I'm so antagonistic about the sphere card. I guess it's such a weird thing for a fight promoter to be like, fuck promoting the fights. I'm promoting a venue I'm going to. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Sound like a real estate developer. Like this is stupid. Um, yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, we got no fights this weekend. Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, because we were talking kind of rumors here. Did you hear all the rumors that were happening on the weekend? I mean, you already kind of mentioned Bilal Muhammad versus Usman. Like,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I guess I should have brought this up earlier, but Bilal winning kind of put a cap on Islam Makhachev's desire to move up because like
Mm-hmm.
they train together or they're friends or whatnot. Yeah, like, well, first
Yeah.
of all, is this fight actually happening too? Do you think Bilal Muhammad will beat Kamaru Usman?
My assumption is it will happen. It sounds like that's what they want. Both Bilal and Usman have been saying that. And so I assume they'll want that. I think Bilal will. I don't know. I don't know who will win. I've seen a couple of videos of Usman training recently. Like that guy legitimately has no knees. It does like really like he can't. He said like he can't run or like walk he can't even like speed walk on asphalt because of his knees. Like, so I don't know. I don't know what he's got left in the tank. He's getting older too. Yeah, I think Block could probably put a pace on him and cause some issues. But it's not a very right. Why are we not doing Shavkat Rakhmonov? Like that's the guy. So
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. As for these other rumors, I see you've written Stipe injured? Question mark. I
Tom Aspinall
don't.
stepping up? Question mark.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. I think Stipe. I think Stipe will. Stipe, I think, will make it to the ring regardless if his body is like
Falling
as
apart.
yeah as he's walking to the ring, like an arm falls off and then a foot like melts as he's walking to the ring. I think he'll do it. Right, it's a big payday for him. It's his last one. He said like on like national or like local television in Cleveland like 3 years ago that he was retired and that's why he was going to be a firefighter full time so he could get a
Yeah.
pension. So like he's just in it for this payday, and this is one of those weird fights where it's like Dana White seems to be hell bent on only having Stipe and John Jones fight each other and not giving Tom Aspinall a chance.
Yeah.
I think Tom Aspinall saying Stipe's injured makes people go, "Oh, well, what will happen if Stipe gets injured? Will John Jones fight him?" Because John Jones is like heroically ducking Tom Aspinall. Just really, really showing that he does not ever want to fight anyone younger than him.
Yeah.
Which I'd seen a stat like John Jones, besides like his last 3 fights, has historically only fought people older than him.
Oh, what?
And yeah, Stipe will be older than him as well. So it's like one of those things where like I think John Jones is like beating up old men. Yeah, and he doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall. So no, that'll never like my assumption is like let's say Stipe does get injured or John Jones does get injured. I don't think that MSG card will have either of them on it. I think Tom Aspinall will come in on short notice and they'll make like an Alex Pereira fight or a Tom Aspinall winner of Cyril Gahn Alexander Volkov fight. Or maybe because they've also said that Connor's not fighting until 2025 and then Connor was like I want to fight but the UFC won't let me or some shit.
Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
they'll like pull that and have him step in on short notice or something. They'll do something, but no. I don't think John Jones or Stipe is fighting anyone other than one another. I mean, I don't think John Jones is ever fighting again. I don't think John Jones or Connor are ever fighting again. So yeah,
Hmm. Yeah,
that's
I know
that.
you said that, and you know what? You've been pretty big on calling, like what happens to Connor. So
Yeah,
I'll buy it. I'll buy it.
yeah. So anyway, what are these other ones? Pereira saying Izzy looked injured during the fight.
So Pereira said in one of his tweets that he's like, I don't know, like Izzy maybe was injured. He was throwing the leg kick and it looked effective, but then he just stopped throwing it. He was only throwing hands, and then
Mm,
Izzy was like, wow, it's like this guy has done research on me, has fought me a bunch of times, It's like he actually knows who I am. So he basically said, like, yeah, that's true, without saying, yeah, that's true. And I
yeah.
remember how I said like he looked kind of injured, he looked like something was off or like his footwork just wasn't great,
Hmm. Yeah.
and maybe he had like a minor injury, but then when you know uh DDP like checked one of the kicks, it aggravated it more or like actually made
When
it
did
into a
he
more
check a kick? He never checked a kick. You mean when he kicked the Greek god that is Dricus Duplessis? He hurt his foot. Yeah.
yeah, maybe,
No,
but
it makes sense, right? Like
yeah.
all these guys fight injured. Yeah. I don't know. Not I guess like nothing I saw in that fight made me go like, ooh, like this went a way in which it seems so indicative of Izzy like being compromised that it wouldn't happen again. Um, right? Like we kind of talked about this. Like Dricus is able to take people down. He's able to like we said like kick with a kicker. Dricus Duplessis just blitzes forward and like he has to be able to counterpunch and he couldn't counter it because it was just the weirdest thing flailing at him he'd ever seen. But yeah, I could see Izzy being injured.
Mhm.
But it doesn't like really change anything about what happened in the fight though. I think right.
Yeah.
Right, unless like he came out and said like, "Oh, I blew my entire ACL on the first kick," then I'd be like, "Oh, okay." But if it's like a pulled thing or like ligaments in his foot are hurting or like he
No,
got
that's
he got
fair. That's fair.
he got punched hard in the face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did.
Anyway, I'll be so happy. Like, aren't you like I like? It's gonna be an early Christmas present when we don't have to talk about John Jones and Stipe anymore, though. Don't you
Yes.
agree?
I
But I
I
was also
yeah.
I was looking at this. I mean, Stipe hasn't fought since like the dawn of time, but John Jones has not fought this year. Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blades have. Cyril Gahn has not fought this year. Volkov and Spivak fought each other, and then that's about it for like high level MMA like heavyweights. Like these guys are not fighting this year really at all, or they only are taking like one fight each.
Mhm.
It's the UFC is really, I don't know. They make the middleweights fight every card. It feels like, and then they just don't make like the actual interesting part of this division fight. Alex Pereira has fought more than like all of the top five heavyweights combined.
Yeah, that's
It's
true,
it's
actually.
it's really weird, and I feel like it is all based on this like Stipe John Jones thing. And it's like I just want it to be done, and then we can
The
be
fact
done.
that two old people can hold up an entire division speaks about the division.
I mean, is it not the perfect metaphor for America? God damn. Just old people holding up shit forever. Get out of the workforce, sell your house, move into all those nice little condos, 55 plus, that you built for your parents. Get out of here. Anyway, it's yeah, and I don't understand either because usually like Dana White would go like scorch earth and be like, these guys don't want to fight, and like we're moving on without them. Like the second you do anything that holds up or like causes any sort of wrinkle in their planning, I do firmly believe if Alex Pereira wasn't in the UFC and he couldn't routinely step in and save these cards, Dana White would have like thrown Stipe and John Jones under the bus repeatedly and been like, fuck that, Tom Aspinall's the real champion.
Mm,
Because he would just want movement. But since he's got Alex Pereira, who's willing to like at any moment be like, yeah, I'll fight whoever, wherever,
yeah.
that allows him to like hold on to like his weird little like I don't know. If it really feels like fan fiction, like Dana White fan fiction. He's like, ooh, but what if the Enterprise flew through a wormhole and then was in Star Wars? Like he's just I want this crossover so bad, and it's like just move on. Nobody cares about this fight. Nobody cares. That's all I got to talk about. Oh, go watch the Merab Dvalishvili, Sean O'Malley fights because the more I watch their fights, the more I'm like, this is gonna be an interesting fight. I think.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Merab Dvalishvili has no defense to speak of, but boy howdy, does that guy just never give up.
Would you say
It's
he never backs down?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. That got me. That got me good.
I'm
I
glad. I'm
kn
glad.
I heard you get a little bit closer to the mic, and your sultry tone came in my ear. I wasn't ready for it. That got me. Yeah. Yeah, so September is I don't know. What's like you know apparently about EDM and raves. What's it like when it's like 2 a.m. and everyone needs to go home, but people are still hopped up and they're like, I took like 70 caffeine pills and I'm still tripping on Molly, so I'm gonna keep dancing, even though their body's failing them. That's kind of what September feels like, actually, looking at this.
In
Uh,
what world do you think that that is my life anymore? Like,
Anymore. Aha! Found you. I don't
when I
know.
was like 20, that was a long time ago, my friend. That was when we were
Yeah.
first like getting into UFC, when we were young and
Now
didn't
when we
care
were
about shit. Like, come
20.
on.
No, man, we watched UFC way before that. I remember watching UFC when I was like when you could rent VHSs at Blockbuster. That's how old I remember it. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, we've got some. I don't know. I don't know. September's a tiring month. October's gonna slap though, but September's kind of tiring. Yeah. Everyone enjoy the last days of summer. Go outside. Don't watch these fights. And then, yeah, we'll be back later to talk more about this stuff. What are we talking about for next episode?
Oh, good question. I don't know. Because since we're not talking about the there's no fights this weekend, so
There's nothing.
yeah.
There's nothing.
We'll have
Well,
I got a couple ideas. I got a couple ideas. I'll float them by you on.
okay, cool. Well, anyway, you've come and listened to us initially start off trying to praise September and then coming to the conclusion that people over the age of 70 shouldn't be allowed to be in Congress or senators in the United States and that old people need to move on. This has been Two Fight Fans podcast. I'm one Fight Fan Stuart.
I'm one fight fan, Colin.
And I don't know. Hopefully the sphere will be the coolest thing ever. And if it's not, we should all I don't know. We should be allowed to burn it down. All right. That's that. Bye everybody.
Bye bye.